Recently, I took cornbread to a friend's house for dinner to go with her chili. With multiple food intolerances represented at the meal, I really wanted to take something everyone could eat. After 5 to 6 different recipe tests the week leading up to the dinner, I came up with a version I was happy to share. With that, I also decided to share it with you today. Let's check out a skillet cornbread version that is crispy on the outside, moist in the center, and surprisingly gluten-free and vegan. For the ingredients, you'll need plant-based shortening like vegetable, unsweetened plant-based milk. I'm using my homemade almond milk, but any kind will work. White vinegar, medium coarse ground yellow cornmeal, gluten-free all-purpose flour blend, baking powder, baking soda, salt, flax meal, or 2 eggs if not vegan, and salted plant-based butter. I use my grandmother's technique for producing the crispiest cornbread, and that's a very hot oven and a cast iron skillet. So first we're gonna add 24 grams, which is 2 tablespoons of shortening into a skillet. This is a 9.5 inch skillet, but you can use a 9 or 10 inch. Cast iron is the key here. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, you can just bake this in a regular pan that you would normal cornbread. You're just not gonna have the crispy exterior. You're gonna place the skillet with the shortening in a cold oven. And you're gonna preheat the oven to 500 degrees. Now we're gonna make the buttermilk-like ingredient. So since we're making a dairy-free vegan cornbread, we're gonna use vinegar and add it to my homemade almond milk, but you can use any type of milk that you want, even regular milk if this is not dairy-free, to create that buttermilk-like flavor. So to a 2-cup measuring cup, I'm gonna add 21 milliliters, which is a 1.5 tablespoons of white vinegar. That acid mixed with the pseudo dairy here is going to create that buttermilk type flavoring. And then add enough of your milk that you're using to equal 360 milliliters, which is 1.5 cups. Just stir the mixture, and then we're gonna set it aside for about 5 minutes so that it becomes sour like buttermilk. To a small bowl, we're gonna add 13 grams, which is 2 tablespoons of flaxseed meal or flax meal, whatever it is. And this just mimics an egg. So if you're not vegan, then you can just use 2 eggs here instead of making a flax egg. And then to this flax meal, if you can see, it's a grain, so it adds fiber and extra flavor and texture to the cornbread. So I do like the flax meal instead of eggs. But to the flax meal, we're gonna add 90 milliliters, which is 6 tablespoons of water. It's just so that the flaxseed can soak up the water and sort of gel like an egg, but it will mimic an egg in a cornbread. So just give it a quick little stir. And then we're gonna set it aside for 5 minutes so that our flax meal softens. To a medium bowl, we're gonna add 152 grams, which is 1 cup of cornmeal, and I'm using Bob's Red Mill medium coarse ground, and I like that thickness of cornmeal. And then to that, we're gonna pour in the milk and vinegar mixture, or almond milk rather. You could use soy here, and I'm gonna give it a quick whisk. And the reason I'm adding our buttermilk type mixture to the cornmeal is because the cornmeal is really gritty since it's sort of coarse. And I've tried making this cornbread without softening the cornmeal, and you really need to soften it because it's too hard on the teeth when you're eating it if it's not softened. So it's best to add that buttermilk mixture to the cornmeal and let it soak for 10 minutes to soften. In a small bowl, we're going to combine the dry ingredients, and that is the 140 grams, which is 1 cup of gluten-free all-purpose flour. We're gonna add 8 grams, which is 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 3 grams, half a teaspoon of salt, and give it a quick stir to combine. In a small bowl, I added 57 grams, which is 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of plant-based butter. You can use regular butter here too, but we're going vegan today. We're gonna heat it in the microwave for 30 seconds or until it's melted. Butter is melted, so just set that aside for a moment. Once your 10 minutes are up, go ahead and stir the moistened cornmeal. It's definitely thickened. Almost looks like a porridge now because it's now soft. It's absorbed a lot of the liquid. So now go ahead and add the flour mixture. Give it a quick stir. Our flax is ready. So it's still very grainy, but it's softened now. And it'll be a good liquid replacement for an egg. So go ahead and pour that in. And now go ahead and pour in your butter. And give it one last quick mix to stir everything up. And you can see the consistency. It's definitely pourable. Now just set this aside until your oven has preheated. Okay, the oven has preheated and my skillet is 500 degrees. It's super hot and the oil that's in it is really hot too. Take a quick swirl of that oil around your pan and then pour about half of it into your cornbread. Leave plenty in there so that your cornbread can crisp out. Then take a spoon, stir in that little extra fat that we put in there. My grandmother always did this with her cornbread. It just added a little bit of extra fat to the cornbread mixture, the cornmeal, as well as create that crispy exterior in your skillet. Okay, we're doing this kind of quickly. So then pour your cornmeal mixture into the skillet and notice it's sizzling. That's because the skillet is super hot. This is what gets it that really crispy crust. Okay, smooth out the top. You can see and hear that oil sizzling. Now with your oven mitt back on because we do not want to burn our hands, return the skillet to the oven. Reduce the heat to 450 degrees and you're going to bake for 20 to 25 minutes until the top is golden brown and a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Check out this cornbread. It rose. That's cracks in the top because it rose from the baking soda. And remember, we did not have any eggs in this. Okay, once you've removed it from the oven, you quickly just want to run a knife along the edge. Notice, look at that. It's one piece, it's spinning around. I really didn't even need the knife. And you want to invert it onto a plate. Actually, I find it easier just to use my hand here, like this. All right, and then you want to serve it. The reason we invert it this quickly is because we want this crust to stay crispy. As long as air can reach it, then it'll stay crispy. If we left it upside down in the skillet, then it would start to soften. You could also put it back in the skillet, which is what I did when I took it to a friend's house. I did this step here, then I slipped back into the skillet and took it to my friend's house like this. And it was still crispy and hot when I arrived. You could slice it in the skillet or you can go ahead and slice it now. Ooh, listen to that crust. I like to go ahead and slice it into all of my slices. And we're gonna get 8 out of here. So I just cut into quadrants first and then go back and do cut in half each quadrant. So you can see how that works. Okay, let's take a look at a slice. The slice removed easily. The interior is moist, cooked all the way through. I like that you can spot the flaxseed meal in it on top. You're getting a little bit of grain there. And you can also see the flax seeds in the center, the little meal there. And the cornmeal, you can see bits of yellow cornmeal. Break into it, it's nice and moist. So let's go take a little bite. That crispy crust is harder to tear apart. The crispy bottom adds a nice texture to the richness of the shortening. The interior is definitely moist and soft. It's not dry at all. I can certainly taste the corn, but since we soaked the cornmeal, it's soft and not gritty. The flax meal adds a nice depth, and the butter, of course, adds richness. This is my kind of cornbread. The cornbread would be great served with a pat of plant-based butter, a drizzle of maple syrup, or crumbled in your favorite super chili. While this cornbread still has great flavor and texture days later, it is best eaten the day it is made since the exterior softens once it is enclosed in a container or bag to store. Cornbread is so quick and easy to make, there's no need to make it ahead of time anyway. As your super chili is cooking on the stove, make and bake a batch of cornbread in the oven. Your comfort meal will be ready in no time. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. Until next time, bake a batch of cornbread and go bake the world.